Now I'm going to talk about text and adding the lettering to your photos. So I'm still on this brown, which I'm not a big fan of, but I can change that in a minute. So if I go to T for text, I'm going to use this to type. I can make myself a text box if there's a particular area I want to fit in. I tend to just click and start typing and then move things around later. So I'm going to click, and my quote is, "Don't give up. You still have people to prove wrong." This is obviously too small, so if I want to change this, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change my size. I'm going to make it bigger. It's still probably not big enough, so this is where you can use your edit free transform, or you can just type in a number. So if I wanted to go 150, this is probably closer to what I'm looking for. I'm going to move this over so we can see the whole thing. Go back to my text tool and highlight it again. From here I can change my color. While it's highlighted, I can pick out a color. Maybe I want to use some of this red. I think I want the deeper red though. There we go. I'm going to press OK. And now it's a red color. I can put this somewhere along the bottom that makes sense. If I want to do some staggering, this is where I'm going to talk about pacing, and sort of like poetry, you want to think about how it is you want to the viewer to read this and where you want emphasis. So maybe you want to make a don't even bigger yet. And then you're going to press enter. Don't give up. I'm going to move this. Don't give up. And then if I want this in a different area, I'm going to delete it. So I'm going to press Control X. I'm going to backspace this. And then I'm going to click my text tool in a different spot. Without that being highlighted, I'm going to click over here, Control V, and I can put it back in. So I want my don't give up in a different spot. So that means it's on a different layer now. So over here I have don't give up, which is this. And then I have this other row right here that I can do something with as well if I would like to. So I'm going to make my don't give up. I'm going to do my Control T. I'm going to hold Shift till it stays in proportion, and I'm going to make it big. Okay? Don't give up. I'm going to think about where I'm putting it, press enter, and then I got to click on my other one, and then move things around that make sense. So don't give up. You still have people to prove wrong. Again, I can change font size, sort of like I did here, by selecting the area that I want. You still have people to prove wrong. Quite frankly, I don't think I would change. That's all sort of the same thing. Remember, I was going to show you guys your layer style for drop shadow. I'm going to give it a block. Press OK. So what you're seeing is quite the distance. It's not very shadowy. Quite the spread. Quite the size. There we go. That looks more like a drop shadow. The distance, you can see how when I slide this, it moves the distance from the lettering. The spread is how fat it goes around it, I guess, is the best way to explain that. And I can also change my angle. So maybe I wanted it to come from a different direction. Then that's where the light's coming from. So I can rotate this to make it come from and drop to the direction that I want it to. I can usually like that kind of an angle right there myself. I can also change my opacity here. So if I made this 50%, you could still sort of see the grass through it. I think I'm going to go back to 70. And then that puts a little bit of emphasis on these words as well. So that is how you add text, move text around, change the color. I didn't really talk about, let me go back to the don't give up. I didn't really talk about, if I click my text tool, it gives me options up here for letters, letter styles, a font. And if I scroll through these, it will actually change as I go. If I wasn't over top of it, you would be able to see it changing through all the different ones. So you're going to find something that works for you, but something that's readable. Something I don't want to see, let me, here, click this one. This is not something that people are going to be able to read in your poster. I'm going to slide this so that you can see it even a little bit better here. It's not something that people are going to be able to read, so you want to keep in mind something. If it's for a poster, it needs to be something readable. I understand you think it's pretty or looks cool, but it's not something that you want to choose for this particular format. So when you're doing this, I'm going to click back on my text tool and re-highlight these. Make sure that you're finding something that's a little bit thicker, and if you have it highlighted like this, then you can scroll through and sort of see what it looks like. This one is still a little bit script and pretty, and if that's what your quote is like a pretty quote, I understand you want to find something pretty, but find something that's readable. This one's at least a little bit better. If I click off of here, that would be an option if I needed to. Size will help that as well, but there's a whole bunch of these to scroll through, as well as just like in Word where you can go, okay, well, I want them to be centered, I want to change the colors, I want to put a curve, all of those things just like you have in Word. So once I ended up with something that I liked, which I do not like that, so I'm going to go back to my history. I liked my drop shadow. There we go. So once I had something that I like, I'm going to File, Save As, and this is like the only time that we really do this in my class is we're going to actually save this as a Photoshop document. The reason we're doing this is because it keeps it as layers. And when it's layers, that means if you had your pacing kind of funny, I don't know, put your name on there. If you had your pacing funny, then that means I can go back in here because all the layers are still here. So I can, or you spelled something wrong, or you forgot the period or a quote mark or something like that. We can go back in and we can do some edits without messing up or restarting the project. So that is it in a nutshell. Have fun, do a wonderful job.